On today's video, we're going to continue from where we stopped on the mini series titled Budgeting Made Easy. Now, this is the last part for this very series, and I want to encourage you, if you have not watched the previous ones, I will just put a link of the playlist below in the description box so that you can go watch those videos. I trust that there is so much that you stand to gain. Now, if you've got questions that you need to ask, just let me know. You can drop it in the comment box or you can send me an email. I'll put the email below in the description box. Now, if this is your first time of watching, my name is Franklin from the Money Code Academy, and I'm glad you are watching. If you haven't subscribed, I want you to consider subscribing, because on this channel, I talk about all you need to know concerning your personal finance. I talk about financial freedom, how to achieve it, what it is exactly, okay? I talk about entrepreneurship and everything in between. I mean, all things money I talk about, okay? So if you are interested in some of these topics, consider subscribing. Don't forget to click on the notification bell so that the next time I post a new video, you will be the first to receive it. At the end of the video, kindly make sure you like and also share with family members who will be interested in videos like this. Now let's get right into it. Today's video is titled Common Budgeting Mistakes to Avoid. Now, I wanted to do this video because when we talk about budgeting, there are certain things you need to know if you're going to have, or if you are going to do a successful budget. It's not enough for you to, lay out your budgeting plans. It's not enough for you to have a wonderful budget, okay? But you've got to understand that there are some excesses that you need to avoid. There are some mistakes that you need to avoid. So I'm going to be putting down a few, whatever it is that I'm going to be sharing with you here. That is not all there is, okay? But I felt that these ones, they will go a very long way to set the pace, to set the stage on what you need to look out for, okay? So let's get started. The first budgeting mistake that need to be avoided is the wrong mindset about budgeting. The wrong mindset about budgeting. There are lots of people today who have got this wrong mindset about budgeting. Okay, for example, you've got to understand that budgeting will not make you rich overnight. Make no mistakes about it. Budgeting was meant to bring organization, to bring administration into your finances, so you don't spend excessively, and at the same time you don't punish yourself just because you're trying to save some money or administrate your money. You get the point now. And then another wrong budgeting mindset that people have is that, they say budgeting is for poor people. In the previous videos, I spoke about that, where some people say that, I don't get into budgeting because it's for poor people. And I specifically said that budgeting is not for the poor, budgeting is not for the rich, budgeting is for a man who wants to harness and manage his finances properly. So these are some of the mindsets that need to be avoided. Don't get into budgeting because of the wrong reason. Because if you get into it because of the wrong reason, then it's obvious you're not going to be able to see the results, the benefits that budgeting brings into your life. So you've got to understand this so that you don't make silly mistakes with budgeting. Okay, now there are lots of other wrong mindsets, okay, that you need to avoid when it comes to budgeting, okay. For example, before you start seeing the right results when it comes to budgeting or true budgeting, it's going to take a while. It's not something that will happen overnight. Now, I said that because there are people who may just want to, they might try it for the first month, try it for the second month, and they're like, come on, I'm not cut out for this, and then they abandon it. It's not going to work that way, okay? So you need to have the right mindset about budgeting. The second mistake to avoid when it comes to budgeting is that you must make a budget that you can stick to. You alone know the amount of money you get every month. Based on that, work out a budget that is convenient for you to be able to stick to. Because if you go and, set a budget that is over the board, the first month, when you see how inconveniencing it has become, you may not be able to continue any longer. So on the basis of that, you've got to set a budget that you can stick to. It has to be something reasonable. It has to be something that is within your capability. Of course, don't go and do something that you are going to be so comfortable with, to the point that you may not be able to save properly and all that, okay? But don't also do something that will be over the board, that will be very difficult for you to manage. So you've got to use your wisdom to come up with a budget that you can at least stick to. It might inconvenience you a little bit, but then it shouldn't be difficult for you to continue with. Is that okay? Now, the next budgeting mistake that you need to avoid is the lack of discipline. See, you've got to understand that budgeting runs on the principles of discipline. A lot of times when people receive their income, they are tempted to want to spend here, to want to spend there. You know what I'm talking about. There are people today, at the very moment they receive their money, in most cases, the money is even gone because they've borrowed money ahead of time. Okay? But in this case, you've got to make a conscious decision that you will be disciplined when it comes to the things you have written down. For example, maybe you've told yourself you want to remove a certain percentage for your emergency fund. Stick to it. Stick to it. It may be difficult, but that is the sacrifice that you should be willing to pay for you to organize your finances. You get the point now? So work on that area of discipline because it's so important. Remember, discipline is a major principle to function with if you truly want to be rich. It's of great importance. There are times when you have to deny yourself of certain pleasures just because you want to achieve a higher goal. That is discipline. So you must avoid the lack of discipline. It's a major mistake that I see most people make when it comes to their budgeting journey. Okay? Now the next mistake that needs to be avoided is setting a budget that makes you choke. This is kind of like the one I spoke about earlier. There are some budgets that are way over the board. Like, once you set that kind of a budget, you will not be able to cope with it. Trust me. It will choke you. I'm talking about that moment when you are setting a budget that at the end of all the things that you've done, you will just be left with little or no money. When you do things like that, you'll be tempted to want to go back to the money you've kept before now. So it's of great importance that you avoid something like this. Don't set a budget that will make you choke financially. If you do that, you may not be able to keep up with it. So you've got to work on this for your own good. Okay? Now the next budgeting mistake that you need to avoid is not reviewing your budget from time to time to see how you are doing. This is also one mistake that most people make. If you have set a budget for yourself, maybe you say, okay, for the next 3 months or for the next 4 months, I'm going to run on this budget. Learn to, reappraise the vision. Learn to go back. For example, at the end of 1 month, go back to your budgeting list. Find out the things you did well. Find out the things you didn't do well. Because see, from time to time, there will be some lapses here and there. That's sure. Okay? But you need to learn to go back to that budgeting list, to review. Review what you've done well. Review the things that you haven't done well. And then based on that, you will know the next step to take. When you are not reviewing your budgeting on a monthly basis, the odds are there that you may not be able to keep up. You will not know if you're making progress or if you're doing poorly at that budgeting that you have set for yourself. So you've got to work on this because it's so important. I cannot stress this enough. Review your work from time to time and see how you are doing. If you've been doing well, give yourself a treat, because from that point you can even get better at what you do. So this is very important. Okay, now the next mistake that needs to be avoided, and this is also very important, is taking funds from some of the categories that you have set aside. For example, maybe you set aside a certain amount of fund for an emergency fund, okay, or you set aside, let's say you kept some money for children's school fees, and then one way or the other you keep going there to take from this category, to take from that category, just to be able to meet up. If that becomes a consistent practice, the truth remains that you will not be able to keep up with that budgeting plan that you've made for yourself. Trust me, you will be tempted. I know how this goes. There's been times when we keep money for certain things, and before you know what is happening, you just go there and dip your hands into that money. Sometimes it makes you feel good. But trust me, it's not a good practice. If you continue with that, it will get to a certain point where you are no longer able to keep up with that budget. So I want to encourage you in this part. It will go a very long way to help you work on these. There are many other mistakes to avoid that I've not mentioned here, but these are some of the major ones that I feel it will go a long way to help you. So I want to encourage you to avoid these mistakes, and your life will not remain the same. Your finances will be in order. You get the point now? So that'll be all for this video. I want to believe that you have gained something. I want to believe that you have received some ideas, some knowledge that will help you a great deal in your finances. Let me know in the comment box, okay, what mistakes have you been making that I did not list here? What mistakes have you been making that you need to also talk about here? Just let me know in the comment box and I'll be willing to revert back. If you haven't subscribed to this channel till now, what are you waiting for? Make sure you get that done, because it will help you to get my videos whenever I post them. This is very, very important. Is that okay? And don't forget to share with your family members, okay? And I will see you in the next video.